Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khairul mursaleen. Muhammadin an-Nabi al-Ummi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Yaqulu Allahu ta'ala fil Quran al-Kareem. Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu Sallu alayhi wa sallimu tasliman. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Maulana Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Dear believers, today is around July 12th, 2016. The purpose for this DVD today is that we're going to Oakland pretty soon, inshallah, if Allah wills. Within the next week or so. We're planning it, and now we could have went to Oakland several months ago, but we postponed it again and again and again. I want to mention why we postponed the trip to Oakland. First of all, Oakland plays a very unique position in the history of black people especially. First of all, in the civil rights movement, it was top of the line. Oakland, small city at that time, 350, 400,000 people, played a gigantic role in the civil rights struggle. Also during the Black Liberation movement, Black Panther Party, other black liberation organizations coming right out of Oakland. And also in the so-called gangster world, or sometime peer, gangster, pimping, hustling, sometime a combination of black liberation, believe it or not, and gangsterism. In fact, for the West Coast, Oakland was the headquarters for the concept of black mafia. Black mafia was an idea that blacks should control the crime and everything else in the black community. If they could control the crime, they could do like Italians, and eventually they could reach a position of national power. If each city in America, which were rapidly turning black at that time, I mean the mid-60s, in the early 70s, if each city, the crime and the other aspects of black society were managed and controlled by black people, that means that black people would be able to support any type of enterprise that they wanted to, including economic enterprise, black economics, including the Black Liberation Movement. And this is where we come in. I want to take you today a little bit from the regular Black Panther regalia. This is 1968 to about 1970, 2 years later. From one point to the other, but they're both combined in a struggle. I'll try to explain that as we go on. It is that part is not a transition, but kind of a growth process, an evolutionary process, which contains the element of crime, criminality, organized crime amongst young black people, and the desire to manage, control our own affairs. Okay. All of them had some success. Then we'll move to now, that is the present. We'll start around 2013, 14, 15, and the early part of 2016. A lot of things happened in Oakland over the last few years. I would say this period would have began in April 2013. This is when, after Salatul Jummah, Mukhtar stood up while I was serving food after Jummah and said some statement like, I am not the police. In the meantime, during the Salatul Jummah, people like Luqman, Sunyata, the ex-principal there up there at Kasama, all of Abdul Malik's crew, 10 of them walked into the Masjid. They had been there, I don't know how many years maybe. They came and sat down and took their regular suspicious position. And after the Jummah, of course, we toned the Jummah very sweetie pie after we seeing them walk in, that it's evident that they up to something nefarious. So what we did was, we wrapped up the khutbah, prayed, and went to serve the food, which is only a few feet away. Mukhtar stood up and said, I am not the police. Then I said, well, you could just relax, and there's no sense continuing that type of dialogue. And then he turned to me and says, you are not kind to us anymore. Whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. Since he was left with some type of responsibility, he had raised not one single penny. I gave him a box all the time, and I told him, do what I do. Go to all of these centers and make a pitch and raise money for the masjid. He never did that. Within 4 years, he never raised a penny. In the meantime, all the money I had put him on one account, where this account, I guess I put about $35,000, $40,000 in it over that period of time. So out of that, he paid all the bills, except taxes, of course. He never paid no taxes or nothing. And it seemed like that he partied pretty good off of that. And I actually paid most of the bills also, because where the money was going, I don't know, and I kept putting money in and money in, which was all right. I told him several times, though, that when you ask for leadership and As-Sabiqun movement, a salary does not go with that. And I told him, if you need $3,000, go out and raise $30,000. Of course, he never did that. But anyway, now, with that short, brief introduction, I am not the police. You're not kind to us. Then the other people began to stand up, like the principal, had some, he didn't have much to say, but Sunyata stands up and he says, you said mean things about Imam Zaid Shaka, and you said he was your friend. I said, well, stick around. And he's running out the door. They all stood up, said a piece, and tried to leave. So I told them, stick around. I said, what I have to mention about Imam Zaid, I'm not going to go back to 1981 and 82, but I'm just going to go to 93 in Philadelphia. I say in Philadelphia, Muhammad Warwick, who was supposedly a friend of ours, running the Jawala Scouts, in Philadelphia, was allowed to use our masjid for scouting, and we would spend most of our time in Philadelphia. So Muhammad Warwick also invited me to a camp that they were having up in the hills of Pennsylvania. one of the African-American brothers, who was a game warden, strong in the Sunnah, you could tell his dress and everything, had some property up there, and Muhammad Warith was leading a movement to have people come up there to that meeting. And I told him, I said, no, I ain't gonna be able to make it. And I had my reasons. Come to see that after that meeting, that it was classified as a terrorist meeting. I don't know how many people went to jail, but it was a big disaster. All led by Zaid Shaka. He was the main speaker. And Muhammad Warith, which we know here from his basketball exploits and all that, to me is an unsavory character. Well, what makes him unsavory? First of all, I had an opportunity to come to Masjid al-Islam on Terrace Street on a Sunday. And the streets of Philadelphia, you can look right in the window off the street, you know. So I looked in and I saw these scouts. They had violin cases. They had rifles in those cases. When I looked in the window, they was all in a prone position on the floor with rifles. So I went in and I told Muhammad Warith, what the hell are you doing? He said, well, doing scout training. I said, you have to get them niggas out of here and take them somewhere else. I said, you ought to know better. I said, with all the heat that's on me. So he says, well, who are you? I said, it's good to be underestimated. That's what I told. That's exactly where I said, it's good to be underestimated. I said, I'm the #1 Negro on these white folks' things, and you have to be insane to come to this masjid. At that time, remember, half the people in the neighborhood was white, actually more. There was a few black settlers. That's why we was there. Technically, this is a white neighborhood, and you coming in to this, our masjid, with violin cases, and people can look in the window and see y'all doing rifle practice, weapons training inside of this masjid. I said, you don't need to come back here no more. So with those two incidents, this is the reason I would mention Zaid Shaka. Not because I like him or don't like him, it's because of the history. Any name I have mentioned about any person is because of multiple actions of anti-movement, anti-Musa, anti-Masjid al-Islam, anti-As-Sabiqun action. Anytime I've mentioned anybody, it would only be after the 4th, 5th, or 10th, or 20th action that they've taken against us. So this would begin around April 2013. Of course, a week later, when I left Oakland, 2 days after that khutbah, by the way, after this little incident, I asked Mukhtar, Luqman was there, and each person would stand up and say, we have some things we have to discuss. They've been gone for I don't know how many years. They don't have nothing to discuss there. Plus, they've never contributed anything. That they was with Abdul Malik. They didn't ask me, the Imam, nothing about what happened. They just packed up and they left with Abdul Malik. They just left with him. Okay, so they can't come back. I don't know what's going wrong with them, but they can't come back years later and say, we got some things to discuss. Okay, I guess they think that peer group pressure, if they got a team and everybody on the team. In the meantime, the white shoe wearing Arabs, the dope selling Arabs and wine whiskey selling Arabs in the neighborhood, you know, the Yemenis, are there, and it seems like everybody is so-called taking that side, whatever that side is. Well, forget me coming and paying taxes, $50,000, spending $70, $80, $100,000 on the other buildings and doing the work, doing 80% of the work myself, and a few of them dropping by every now and then. We don't mention all of that. But anyway, I asked Mukhtar, I said, brother, you're having some problems. Maybe this is too much pressure for you. You can arrange for you to some other employment or something else. He was almost crawling on the floor, licking the doorknobs. Please, I want to be a part of this. I said, well, you just kind of stabbed at your brother's back and slashing at his throat. Please, I want to be a part of it. I said, okay. Now, the one thing about it is, forget about it and let me know that they are ready for an approach. 3 days later, my grandson was supposedly killed, which I will mention in the future my own belief about whether he's dead or not, because he showed clear signs from a couple of years before of cooperating with Mukhtar, my grandson, and actually my whole family, because the government has had a long time to, if Mukhtar was able to break in to my house, which is in the back of the original house, and carry off tafsir of Qurans, all the paperwork from everything, all kind of mechanical recording equipment and all that, it would have to be with the help and assistance of a family member, because he couldn't walk back through the gate, lift it up with all the noise it makes, and go back in and out taking boxes of tafsir of Quran and word translation of Quran, the things that it had to be a Muslim, not my son is a Muslim, but it had to be a person that knows what I read. Now, to move forward a little, when the fitness starts big time, up in, let's call it December 1st, December 2nd, when we had our program, our first program, Mukhtar walks in with a camera and actually cussing and talking loud about, Imam Musa, you a thief, you got money, and he's saying things that you got money in all these accounts. First of all, the only way he could have known what he was saying, he's saying that on purpose, is that I'm the one that stole your stuff. Now, of course, everything he's doing is trying to excite me. At the first program, we have an array of clownish type Negro wearing their hats sideways, supposedly there to support Mukhtar, and talking about Imam Musa, you gotta go, you are out of here, and you ain't never here. Of course, I had a stack of programs that the only programs that ever happened in Oakland was ones that I came from DC and put on. I have a flyer. And the years he was there, no programs to raise funds or anything else ever happened. But it was all right with us. Now, what I'm going to begin to talk about is, first of all, I want you to imagine what we said before is a war room. First, imagine a war room of a Western superpower, or say like during World War II or anything like that. When you saw the war room, the lady or person would have on earphones where messages would be coming in. They would have a big, if it was dealing with ships, they would have a big outlay of water, little mountains here and there out of the water, islands. And then they would have big ships, or toy ships. They'd have a long stick, and they'd get one message and they would move a ship over here. They would move a ship over there. If it was dealing with strategic bombing and what have you, it would be a huge countryside. And they would be moving planes. Each plane would represent a squadron or what have you. And this is a Western war room where they have international and they have global communications. And they have all type of experts and others and strategic managers, generals, colonels, admirals, and all alike participating in this strategic management of this war. That's them. The government had the same thing on this go around with us. So they have the CIA, they have the FBI, they have Homeland Security, they have, which one? Oh, definitely NSA. They have NSA, they have Interpol, they have literally, including MI6 and all of those, because I've been hassled by all of these people, turned around at international borders by MI6, okay, on the direction from the United States government. So now I want you to imagine our war room. In our war room, we have maps of the whole world. And in those maps, we have pinpoint accurate places where we have been, where we have had activity, and where we have influenced things a little bit. Okay? But in our war room, we have one person, me. We have to take all the information that's coming from all over the world and all the experiences coming together. And we have, after, at that time, over 30 years, we had at that time 30, let's say 33 years of Islamic experience with these people and events all over the world. All the big shots, all the players and all the actors. We also have access to and are surrounded by all of the snitches, stooges, and collaborators of the United States government, the British government, the Canadian government that we are visually cognizant of. And all the players. And we've had extensive experience with all of these actors. Here's a dilemma in this global war against Islam, and we're being the target. How to get everybody else to understand that. How to teach everybody else. First of all, we got an Islamic movement, a black movement, a human movement that is in fear of the Western governments. They're in a state of fear. They're in a state of paralysis. What to do and how to do it doesn't even come in their mind. They just exist, and they have no counteroffensive, they have no strategy. Here in the United States, we've been dealing with these issues, and we've written about these issues in As-Sabiqun for over 25 years. If you look at our As-Sabiqun we have mentioned and discussed these articles in details throughout the 90s and early 2000s. But our dilemma is that we want to teach the world possibility thinking. It is possible for you, the Islamic movement, the Islamic organization, the black movement, the black organization, the human rights, the human liberation, the earth liberation movement, all of the freedom-loving people, we want to teach them and show them that they can manage their own destiny without fear of the United States government. So our dilemma was what we call strategic brilliance. One person had to manipulate the whole security, informational apparatus of the United States government. And we had to engineer it to a position to where they do what we say here. Imam Musa will, inshallah, share case study after case study on how to practice psychological guerrilla warfare. The College of Strategic and Islamic Studies will give you hands-on experience on how to make U.S. agents and collaborators expose themselves. If I know all of this, another one would be design fitna. This is 2011. Design fitna. We're telling the world that we're going to design a program to make everybody expose themselves. Not where I know it, because they've known, and he would even make sure that I would know stuff, because only I would know it. They couldn't prove it because I know it. And if I tried to tell everybody everything that's going on, it would add up to that poor man is gone crazy. In fact, Muhammad al-Asi, right here, and I'll tell you about this later, a few months ago, during the heat of this experience, told the people, this is what the Iranians said, that the government had ran Imam Musa crazy and he's losing it. That's what he was saying about it. Now you remember, Brother Tufel, you're here. I was calling you almost every time something happened in Oakland. And I don't think I could, at that time, be a person that was more stable, more balanced, more contemplative. In fact, if you remember yourself, the more the pressure is on, the calmer and more relaxed I am. Like just at the house, when Sister Bahia had the police come there, Sister Bahia had the police come there, she had punched me in the eye, twice, okay? And she had did that figuring I would respond. Of course I didn't respond. When the police came in, it was based on my statements of I would not allow the police to come in my house without a warrant. Well, here they come. I'm supposed to respond. Now, while I'm putting ice on my eye, if you remember, I'm saying these words, similar to this. This is when you plan, structure, and organize right in the heat of battle. So there are people who have seen me during what they would call stressful periods that were not stressful at all. No anxiety. Oakland produced absolutely no. Why didn't it produce no anxiety? Because of design fitna. We designed all of this. We designed every bit of this. Now, I want to get back to beginning in December, of 2013 when Mukhtar comes in and he's talking crazy, cursing, and one of my sons is there and he wants to, or he's pretending to want to challenge them, want to fight. I didn't allow it. And it's on the video that this dummy put on the video. I said, stand down. I do this all the time. They are just talking. But what was Mukhtar and Khadijah trying to do? I think it's the same one. The same way, yeah. Khadijah says, Imam Musa, you ain't no man. You ought to have titties like me. Okay? When we're in the kitchen, Abdul Malik's attack dog, Sister Khadijah, punches me twice. That's on that occasion. She punched me another time in the kitchen on another occasion. What was the point of me being so calm and relaxed? If somebody comes to you wearing a sign on their head, I am trying to provoke you to make a physical move. It's what I'm here to do. Everything, Mukhtar, Khadijah, and all those, now remember there's an audience of Negroes that have nothing to do with Masjid al-Islam at all. Yeah, we helped do this, we helped do that. I said, well, you might have helped put a couple of nails or two. I said, but that carpet and all of this, I said, I paid for all of that, and I did 80% of the work myself. 80% of the work myself. So if you did a little something, that's good for you. That don't give you no right to come around here and run in your mouth. What was their goal? Their goal was to provoke Imam Musa, because Imam Musa had already given a whole series of lectures on the condition of Islam, the conditions of Muslims, and the condition in Oakland, and had already outlined for the third time who the collaborators was, who the informers was, and this was a time where we had to now have them display their behavior. And anyone that knows anything about Oakland knows that they displayed their collaborative behavior. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but first of all, the next time they come with the same approach. We're having a program and they're talking loud and acting crazy. Probably this one right here, February the 2nd, 2014. So they come and they're trying to start trouble. Again, the idea is to provoke Imam Musa. If Imam Musa is there by himself and I make any move, that means all of those people who appear to be armed could shoot me, because Mukhtar, he had to defend his wife from a brutal attack by an enraged Imam Musa. Well, it never worked. I'm not going to go into the history of conspiracies, but I do want to let you know why the arrest in Masjid al-Islam of Imam Musa in September, while I have the deed to the property right there where I could just reach and get it, but the police won't allow me. Who brings the police to the masjid? Mukhtar and Khadijah bring the police to the masjid. There's 12 cars outside, lights flashing. They pulling out guns Come out of there. I said, do you have a warrant? So they're talking loud and crazy. So I opened the door. I said, do you have a warrant? They say, step on out with your hands first. So I got the door open. Nah, I step on out. Turn around, stand up against the wall. They handcuff me behind. You're going to jail for trespassing. The owner, which is Mukhtar, of course my name is on the deed. Mukhtar is having me arrested. So I tell him, I say, hey, look here, since I'm going to jail, I said, I have $10,000 back there on the desk. I said, would you go get it, or would you allow me to go get my $10,000? Well, it's $10,000 when you go to the bank, you get $10,000 in a raffle. Okay, I had another 1,500 or so that I have in my pocket. So this is where the number of 11,000 or so come up. Okay, so they take me to jail along, and then they kind of brutalize the brother. It's a nice brutalization, which, you know, I'm accustomed to. But why wouldn't all of this, see, everybody, while all this is fitna is going on, shooting of dogs after Juma, coming and having the dogs impounded, little things like, well, the down at what we call a school, 80006 MacArthur Boulevard, we have, I have my sons living upstairs in the back because of certain reasons. And I have my car, my van, that I've shown you, I didn't bring it, but I've shown you the van on flats next to the Masjid. From one of these programs we have in the Masjid, I almost see Mukhtar and an Indian brother slash the 4 tires. The van's out there. So I bought 4 new tires, close to $500, and I said, I'll park it down behind the gate of the school and have my son stay there. So Mukhtar shoots the dogs, because I have my son have guard dogs. You can't have dogs. I said, you must not know much about Islam. You have guard dogs in Islam and hunting dogs. And I said, when you shoot, when you release the arrow, you have to say Bismillah. I said, when the animal goes and catch the animal that you've killed and bring it back, then you Bismillah that animal. And the animal is trained not to chew it all up and lose his self-control and eat the thing, because he's trained. So anyway, the police tells me they have authority and dominion over this building. I'll say that's not true, but I don't have the deed also to that. And the deed does not have my name on it, this deed, but it says send all, on the deed it says send everything to 5021 A Street, Southeast Washington, D.C. So I have a copy of that, and I have my D.C. ID on that with 5021 A Street. So I tell the police, I go get him, I have him bring all of that. They put their brother in the back seat of the police car, and they let Khadijah go in and out of the building, and anybody else. What that's doing is contaminating the evidence. Right? Everybody knows Mukhtar shot the dogs. In fact, the police shot the dogs. said that he shot the dogs, and they also said, we think he was waiting for one of yours. This is what the police tells us. So that when they come in, he could shoot them. And what they say about their own snitch. Anyway, all of these issues that we go through in Oakland, California are wonderful. Their exposition of what? They're showing who the federal agents are in the United States in relation to As-Sabiqun movement. So, just to let everyone get a little better understanding, that to be arrested and harassed over and over again might be something to everybody else, but it ain't nothing to me. What I want to mention, though, is that during this period, in this video that we plan to distribute very soon, we want everybody to know that we want them to look at what happened to us through our eyes, not their own eyes. See, if you look at what happened to us, all of my friends was looking at me like, oh man, they really doing brother bad. He's got to topple pretty soon. Even my daughter, Sakina, said the other week, they had to have the upper hand because they took your money and out of the bank and gave it to somebody else. So I had to sit her down and I had to explain to her, absolutely not. They don't have the upper hand. They have the lower hand because they did that. Not because they have to give it back and all that, which they do. And if they don't, it don't make no difference because the Bank of America allowed Mukhtar to use a paper with some guy, Jordan's name, and I went and got the paperwork from Sacramento, where he says on there he's the president, and Sequila Khadijah is the second, that they run the Masjid, that they're the authorities there, and that they have put me out. Now, here's what they had though. They tried this several times. As soon as they got my paperwork, they went to the Bank of America in Eastmont Mall, and the people told them that they can't do that. Then the next time I came to the bank, Jorge, his name, one of the brothers, you know, behind the desk, he pretended like he was throwing something near where I was, and he said, I want to talk to you after you finish the window. So I went over there. I talked to him, and I talked to the African-American lady behind him over there too, in the administration. They said this crazy man and his wife came to the bank with the numbers of your accounts, and they were demanding that they be put on those accounts and I be taken. They said, they told him you can't do that. Then they did it again at the other bank in Berkeley. Finally, the government stepped in and told them, let them do it. So they took money, they let him open an account in Masjid al-Islam with the same tax number, with him being the administrator. This is what the Bank of America did. This is fine. This is beautiful. Now, all they had was a letter written by them that says that they're now in charge of Masjid al-Islam. This is insanity. No one contacted me, no one, the law is that you can't do that. There has to be some type of procedure in the court. It has to be some type of procedure in the masjid. They have to hold something where everybody in the masjid that's active agrees such and such and such. They don't have none of that. They have the government helping them. And from my information, I've been banking in Oakland a long time. People told me that this, what do they call this, the Treasury Department has secured the Bank of America against anything, any suit that I can. If I get $1 billion that's for them, don't make no difference. The Treasury is going to cover it for them because this is a governmental operation, 100%. Huh? They have immunity, but they figured. Now you got to remember, what are they trying to do? They're trying to make Imam Musa mad. They're trying to throw Imam Musa off course. I want to show you something that will let you know that God never puts you into a situation unless He trains you for it. This is something I have, it's called 1973. It's when I was fighting my case from years ago, from early 70s and late 60s, to prove that the government of the United States was in charge of drug distribution and that they had used us, young blacks. And I have even here, I have a letter from the government informant's son-in-law, and I have a statement from the government informant's daughter. Okay, I have a witness list here, everybody from lawyers to judges, right here. This is a witness list. Okay, but to cap it all, when I tried to get my arrest record, they only had 2 or 3 arrests. So I said, okay, I went to my bail's bond. Dear brothers and sisters, I want you to look at this. This is my real arrest record from 1967 to 1970. All court appearances, is 10 pages of, and each one of them might have 10 or 20 court appearances. So this represents anywhere from 100 arrests and 200 court appearances in 5 years. That means I was involved with the government on a regular basis. What does that do? That produces a climate of I'm accustomed to the government. So the little fitna that they was doing in Oakland was nothing. Why was it nothing? Number one, when we had all of this contact with the government, in past years, I was involved in crime. So I had to be cautious and nervous and anxious because I could go to jail, I could lose all my tons of empire. But in Islam, I don't do nothing wrong. I have to have the cleanest record of anybody in the United States. With all the hassles and contact I have with the government, if I had a sneeze, I would be in jail. Right? So, what I'm trying to say is what happened in Oakland was a training exercise. We, in our war room, manipulated the people around the world to collaborate with Oakland. So we have Abdul Malik collaborating with it. We have Muhammad al-Asi taking a position in behalf of Abdul Malik, which he's technically not supposed to know nothing about it. We have Zafar Bangash. We have to almost beg him to print some of the things that happened. But he only printed the things that happened to us. He did not print our counteroffensive, which our goal was to bring all of this pressure and disaster down on Oakland so it would be visible. We accomplished that 1,000%. Visible to the whole world. But the world know what the government did to us. which is good. But they don't know what we did to them. That's why we have our flyers here. And it says, victory of Islam over the Shah, victory of Masjid al-Islam over the combined forces of Zionism. During this time, 2014, we had already stuck our foot. We had whooped the government so bad that we started using the word discombobulated, disorganized. What we have done to the United States government is the exact same thing that Iran has done to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has an incoherent, self-destructive, suicidal policy on all levels right now for the last couple of years. Suicidal. It doesn't make sense to anyone unless they know that they are suicidal and they have ran themselves crazy. Okay, the policy in Oakland, the policy with all of the people involved, caught the government off guard. Number one, I told them what I was going to do. I have to go back to the people here. I told everybody exactly what I was going to do with the United States government. We started referring to this in the same time, 2012 and 13. Deja vu. We have seen this, and this is the best time, and this is the best period, and it's more comfortable. We have it in our notebooks. We have read this to people. We have showed this to people. That this cycle is a sleepwalk. And we have, what are we willing to go through? We're willing, we've trained for a fight for 500 rounds. That means you can go 600, 800, maybe twice, 10 times. But we were trained already in all areas to deal with the United States government no matter what they bring. But we were not going to depend on them to bring it. We engineered them to bring it. I'm telling you, this is what design fitna. I just showed you the bit. Design fitna. 225, yes it is, 2011. Design fitna is strategic brilliance. It has never happened in history amongst the black movement or Islamic movement. Martin Luther King, 12 years, Malcolm X, 12 years, from 1952 to 1913 years. Martin Luther King, 1956 to 1968. 12 years. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X were victims of the COINTEL program. We are victors of the COINTEL program. We are not victims. The farther you go back, the more we would be into victimhood. But by the time you come into the 90s, especially the end of the 90s, we're in a period of being able to manipulate pretty good. By the time 2002 is when we have been working on this project right now since 2002. 2002 is when we had our national program here. By the way they acted, the people acted during that program. Remember Khadijah, Abdul Malik's attack dog, had a fight with Sister Karima, spoiled the whole environment. What I told everybody to do, how we will handle it, it didn't go like that. As soon as we came back up and opened the program, Mukhtar jumped right in and started running his mouth. I don't hold anything against anybody. He wasn't supposed to say anything. He's supposed to shut up. I was supposed to smooth this over and make it work. All he did was call himself taking the initiative out of my hand. At that time, I turned to everybody and I said, what did I say exactly?
Being stabbed in the back as we see.
Yeah, I'm being stabbed in the back. So, to them, that didn't mean nothing. To them, that meant, what that meant to Abdul Malik and the whole crew, that means we are in charge now. This is exactly what it meant. So now, that's where they are. So the next few years, I drowned them in you're in charge. You man. Up until 2005, 3 years later, I sprung it on them. 2005. The comeback was so diversified and comprehensive that by 2008, Abdul Malik resigned. In his resigning, which I have the letter, he said Imam Musa fired me. I waited 6 months as usual. Then I produced his letter of resignation. Okay, that was for the record. People in Masjid al-Islam, absolutely nothing. They could care less. The As-Sabiqun members down in LA, that big Southern California crowd, Ahmed Shama and all of them. Of course now, you have to remember, we have known that everybody associated with Oakland was the police from the very beginning, including Abdul Malik. In fact, in '87, we told him that he was the police. But we sprinkled dust on him and made him forget that we said that. You know what I mean? Okay. So we gave him the old-time Negro buttering up. You the boss. You got it going on, boss man. And they got looser and looser and more arrogant. When we dropped it on them in 2007, bam! They almost went crazy. I want to tell you a little bit about some of the drawbacks of people like Abdul Malik, Zaid Shaka, Siraj Wahaj, the whole crew. They are Islamic talkers. They have never had any confrontation. Or they talk about championship, but you can't be a champion without getting some fights. They have never. The closest Abdul Malik had with a fight was a little fitna with Halle Berry. That's what they call Sister Zakiya, one of his wives. He mistreated her psychologically and commenced to think he was dominating her. Well, I told him, I said, do not snap your fingers at people. Well, he snapped his fingers at her because China Boy, a minister in the Nation of Islam in 1984, we was at the Youth Development Center. Akbar Muhammad Farrakhan, second in command, came to speak. And at that program, China Boy, the minister from San Francisco, snapped his finger at Abdul Malik and pointed. He did it all in one. And pointed the briefcase. Abdul Malik picked it up. I felt sorry for him. I said, well, and he walked behind him dutifully because he was trying to infiltrate almost a criminal lawyer. Them niggas, though. We thinking morality? Hey, man, they wasn't like us. So he saw he couldn't do nothing there, and he came on over to us. Anyway, so Abdul Malik, he observes things, and if something else works with somebody, he'll do it to other people. So this is what he would do to Sister Zakiya. Stop his finger. And I told him, I said, we don't treat people like dogs. I said, I didn't do that. I said, I've seen you 3 times. Snap your finger at your sister and point at stuff. I said, we don't do that to people. I said, a white man's I said, y'all holds dialogue. When this is married to Sister Bahia, with anybody, you ain't gonna break me. That's why Sister Bahia, when we got married, you trying to break me. I said, you niggas is crazy. I said, Big Hank, Imam Musa, is a nigga builder. I said, don't nobody know me except anybody that was with me was bigger when they was with me than they ever was in their life. And if they left, they shrunk. Just like Abdul Malik now. He was the biggest nigga on the West Coast. He ain't the biggest nigga now. I had to beg him to at least do a masjid. So finally he opened a little center. And they invite him to a few talks every now and then, but he's not #1 Negro on the West Coast. He was traveling all over, everywhere, the big Negro. The expert on blacks. Now, I don't want to brag about nothing. Zaid Shaka, Siraj Wahaj, Abdul Malik, Sherman Jack, all of them people. You know, when they talk about the black movement, not one of them have ever seen a Mau Mau in their life. In fact, I would say that I'm the only person in America that I know of, maybe there's somebody here around somewhere, that have ever talked to Mau Maus. When I was in East Africa, 71, 72, and all that period, I looked up the remnants of the liberation movements. Why? Because that's what we were doing. They were, half of them were robbers. You know what I mean? How we, right? You know why? Because you know what, like the ANC, when Mandela and them come back, well, the niggas that take over forget about the soldiers in the bush. Just like everywhere else, 5 years after the takeover in South Africa, all the brothers are standing in front of the can with a big fire, you know, trying to keep warm, all the fighters. This is historical. These things always happen. So, I don't know any of them that know or have ever seen any of the founding fathers of the black liberation, in Africa. I know they haven't seen MZ, Jomo Kenyatta. I've seen it. I ain't talked to him, but I've seen it. Him and his rulers. Swat thing. Julius Nyeri, Walimu, I've seen him many times. Kenneth Kaunda, Milton Obote. Milton Obote from Uganda, that was the president who was hiding out in Tanzania because Idi Amin had took over. You may not believe it, but I know. Now, one of my best friends was Idi Amin's doctor. If y'all ever saw The King of Scotland or that old movie about Idi Amin, he always had doctors, right? Dr. John Branyan, look him up on the thing. Chicago doctor, educated in Lausanne, Switzerland. We traveled together from Algeria to Egypt and Uganda and then to Tanzania. When I left Africa, he went back to Uganda, and he was one of Idi Amin's doctors. My doctor in Oakland showed me the picture. It's in Ebony magazine from, I'll think of the year, but Dr. John Branyan is wearing a white suit and sharp as a tack, and he's Idi Amin's doctor. That would be probably around 74, maybe 75. Could have been 73. Out of all the liberators, I never talked to Nelson Mandela, but I sure been where he's been. All of those people. Muhammad Babu, personal friend, the brother that mentions in Malcolm's lectures, he mentions it as the revolutionary. Anyway, does anybody ever call me from the immigrant Muslims and from the Negro Muslims or Negroes to talk about black history or blacks in Africa, or the only Negro in America that helped supported some of the African American institutes right now that's in Tanzania is me. And I'm not bragging, saying it, I'm just telling you things that are common knowledge. They're facts, they're common knowledge, and everybody knows it. What I'm trying to give you is a picture of where we are right now in the movement. The main thing I want Oakland to understand is, when they look at what happened to us over the last few years, look at it through our eyes, not through their own eyes. Because their eyes would say, boy, Imam Musa was really treated bad, and man, he about ready to crack by now. That's what would happen with them. And that's what would happen with them, with anybody, if they hadn't been arrested. I don't know how many times. This right here is page 1 from my bail sponsor. These are all court dates and arrests. This is the first page. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, that's 12 right here. That's the other ones right here. Let's say 22. Well, I'm gone. Here's page 2. It has almost the same thing. Let's just extrapolate. That means 100 arrests and 200 court dates. Which is true. What would happen to you if you did that? You would become accustomed to it. It wouldn't be nothing to you. In these days, I was breaking the law. Nowadays, I ain't breaking the law. They can't, it has no offense. I'm a good citizen. They're breaking the law. So they're the bad guys. Okay, the point I'm trying to make, what does all this mean to the movement? It was last night or the night before, woke me up from a dead sleep. From Press TV, I don't know whether a white man turned off my telephone, or who turned it on. But I was just laying, and all of a sudden, and there's Zaid Shaka giving a speech on Press TV. Good speech, by the way. To the immigrant community, packed house, big giant auditorium. He's giving good facts. The only thing is, he's never been in a fight. He don't have no history. He don't have no background of struggle. Plus, he made the mistake of coming to the Bay Area, Berkeley, and then Oakland, to shore up Hamza Youssef. There's a final takeover of the Islamic movement in America. The only holdout is As-Sabiqun. That's why the whole movement, all the big lectures you hear, I don't care who they are controlled by the immigrant community. And the immigrant community is controlled by fear of America. And the immigrant community, there's only one American that is persona non grata, who've never done anything to him, and it's poor brother Musa, poor fellow. Never gets an invitation, or how do you do? I'm telling you, just watching this. When all this stuff was going on in Oakland, not one. I never got a phone call from Siraj. I never got a phone call from even Abdul Malik, because knows us, he's there in Oakland and knows us all a big lie. He knows that Mukhtar is lying about everything. But that's the key. That's supposed to make me mad, that everything he's saying is a lie. It's like when Sister Bahia says something. It's all a lie. She tells my poor daughters, and it works, about the abuse. Well, first of all, her abuse is visible. That she's always had a car, which ain't no nigga never bought her no car. She's had a series of cars, and her car has always been the best. If you drove that van, tell the truth, that van drives better than any car out of all that. It's tight. You can feel it in the steering wheel. It's tight. It's tighter than that. Okay? It's hers. You bought it for her. She asked me, would you, I haven't already been divorced. I gave her a stack of $100 bills. I tell you, I don't know any Negro that gave any black woman no money when they divorced. I don't know any. Maybe it's some. If somebody had, please let me know. I don't know nan nigga in the United States that divorced another black woman and gave her a dime. I don't know any. Huh? Someone could remind me, but so far I don't know any. Okay, and says, if you would get me a car or a van, I would pay you back, try to pay you back over a period of time. I looked like I didn't hear what she said. Fatima says, I would love a blue van. So that happens to be the day I'm going to the auction. I come back with a blue van. And there's a special friend of ours that paid insurance and everything else. All they have to do is get it and drive the doggone thing. That's all they do. Niggas don't do that. They can say what they want, niggas don't do that. And every car that was bought, when we brought that blue Volvo, we call it Miss Blue, that was hers. I was driving a car that you had to pour water in every time and take the cap off the radiator, or else it would blow up. I poured water in the radiator and had to leave the cap off for it to run. No, I don't know how I did it, but that's how it worked. And I would park on the hill, and I would push the clutch, get started. That's how I got that boy started, that old little ugly Datsun with dents all in it. Okay, but we bought her a nice car. Okay, I don't want to talk about that. That house down there was a wreck. Nobody would live in it. So it was an eyesore. I fixed it up. Shoot. Now they all got their own rooms, air conditioning. They got cable. I don't watch it, but it's only costs $225 a month. They got big screen TVs. They got all that stuff. And of course they abuse. This is the thing that we have to remember. That's what they tell my daughters. Okay, my daughters is going for it. That's why you see. Or they've told my daughters, your father's in a lot of trouble. He's a sharp nigga. If y'all don't help discourage him, they're going to kill him. That's what they told the other family members. So I assume that's what she told them. If you love your father, try to discourage him. Of course I'm not going to let my daughters discourage him. This is insanity. And it's a big help. You know why? From the system, they get anything they want. Right? Bahia makes some promise, the government promise. If we do this, they get. Sakina is getting ready to go up to Smiths or whatever that is. This is one of the biggest top girls' schools in the United States. Up in Boston. Free of charge, because they got a deadbeat dad that they don't know where he is. So, anyway, not that they have every kind of computer and phone gadget that you can. That stuff is nothing. You don't pay that. Okay, but here's the thing. The government is stupid. They thought that I wanted my daughters to help because I have a stand for Fatima. Now, this is a wonderful abuse, daughter abuse. I buy the oil, I buy the books, I buy everything, and I set up the book stand. She has a terrible time. She has to stand there, I'm telling you. She has to stand there and hold out her hand and take the money. This could almost be devastating psychologically to a poor kid. It could depress a person. That they have to walk all the way down 3 doors, all the way down here and down those stairs and stand in front of this thing. And the nice daddy, he duplicates the movies, he buys the oil, he's already purchased the books, and it is traumatic. I can imagine what it would be like to a poor child to literally have to have people put money in their hand. And then they walk back home and then the poor daddy puts them all back. This could be traumatic. This could be child abuse. I think they could bring a case of child abuse. If they could get one of them as a witness, they'd say he abused the poor daughter. But you see, Fatima don't come no more to pick up money. Because dumb sister Bahia and them, okay, they're discombobulated and they're going crazy like the big government. Here's why. If you have a strategy of anything you do, I'm going to turn it to a benefit. They took my sons, and by 1985, I was telling them this, hey man, the only way y'all gonna make it is that you do like I do. Like, can you imagine somebody 14 and 16 and 17 using super discipline and avoiding all the traps? No. They can trap them with dope, little girls and everything, and they make you feel like that's their ego. They trapped them both that way. In fact, they got them both hooked. One hooked to snorting heroin, the other addicted to the pipe, smoking the pipe. So it lowered their morality. And they kept putting them in jail over and over again. But you know what? Out of all their friends, they're the only ones alive. That period of the late 80s and 90s, they was wiping out black boys, and it wasn't until a few years ago that they realized what happened. Hey, thanks to Allah, we're still alive. They realized that, so the government did us a favor. This is what I'm saying about my daughters. We're hitting the government so hard that if the daughters were cooperating with me, there's no telling what they would do to them. But if the daughters are cooperating with their mama, guess what? I have no worries at all, except what the government would deal with me. And I'm trained for it. I don't want to brag, but if the government of the United States can't do nothing to me, and I tell them, I said, the only way you're going to have any effect on me is you shoot me point blank in the brain. Because otherwise, I have learned you, Mr. White Man. And I tell them this, just like not only in these, I tell them in lectures and I tell them face to face. You ain't going to do nothing but get a royal butt kicking. That's what happened in Oakland was. I want you to understand. And I'll move toward a close. Our goal was to raise all of this stuff to the surface. Everybody would see it. And then it would be kind of like this right here. How to Punk the FBI. That program was almost 10 years ago, 2007. And it was done so that if we have a program making fun of the FBI, calling them a bunch of punks, right? And we don't get killed and we don't go to prison, then that means the other Muslims will kind of lose their fear of the government. They did. For about a month or two, they kind of lost their fear. And then they jumped right back. They had a flashback. So, this is the whole point. Psychological guerrilla warfare. This is from 2009. And our move was and is psychological guerrilla warfare has worked. It has worked like a charm. Why and what makes that important? What makes it important is that during the next few years, we're going to teach people how we got here, what happened to bring us to this point, where are we headed now. The Muslim community will have no excuse that we can't do it, it's too big of a job, it's tough. You know why? We've already done it. When they looked up, they was already whooped and they didn't know it. We have to tell them, boss man, we have just finished knocking the snot out of you, slapping you upside of your head and kicking you in the behind. That's what Oakland did. You got to remember, in Oakland, they attacked with everything they had. They attacked twice with guns. One time, guns drawn and pointed directly at me. This is witnessed by everybody. Who's doing most of the gunpoint? The Uncle Tom Arabs, the new brand of FBI Arabs. And we identified them. And we're going to turn the screws on them. See, we identified and elevated the whole snitch movement in the United States and abroad. The Iranians, I gave them the full information on what happened. They just looked straight ahead. Okay. With the top Iranians, we are home folks. But all of them, every president, I got every president. And I mean, known, like when I visited the president of Iran last time, President Ahmadinejad, not that he's getting ready to run again, and he draw crowds of 50,000, 200,000 people without no announcement. You know what one of the brothers told me that knows what's going on? He said, hey, when your homeboy gets back in, all these double crosses are going to be carrying signs every time you come to Iran. We need employment. We need employment. You know, I would tell you, Ahmadinejad, I was trying to find some words to explain to him our concept. You know what he said? He said, don't worry. He said, our hearts are in tune. I was ready to go there, and I said, hey man, no leader, see, talks like that unless he's on his job. And I watched him, and I watched the lectures that he gave. We gave the same type of lectures. Why? Because he was under maximum pressure. Maximum pressure produces total solutions. See, if you're just smart with Black Lives Matter and you da-da-da-da-da, you say, well, we gotta fix Black Lives Matter. But if it's just like this right here. If I'm here, if I'm right here, and the black solution It's money, wealth, and power, right? You can see the Huey Newton brothers right here. If 2 years later, I have and experienced every bit of money, wealth, fame, and power that they got, and you still a nigga, you say, that ain't the solution. But I have a total solution. Now, you come to that over 40 years ago. Suppose in Islam, you deal with the whole internal and external mechanism. You come to the conclusion that it's a global solution, but we have to have the credibility. If we are the expert, we're the expert not because we claim, we're the expert on Islam and the Islamic movement because we've survived it, we've engaged it on all levels, and we have survived and engaged it with the proper attitude of humility, love, and concern. The other reason I didn't want to go to Oakland, because right after Abdul Malik's thing in 2007, going into 2008, the government gave strong indications, and 3 groups approached me. 2 of them was the police, and 1, I think, had heard about it, and they were naturally wanting to help. AK-47s and everything, we'll take care of that nigga. Talking about Abdul Malik. I said, absolutely not. Why? Because he's now a known government agent, and he knows all the connections throughout the country, some international. We've got to get rid of them. That's the way that you can watch any movie, that's the way they work. All these born identities and all of that kind of thing. They train people to kill people, then self-destruct, right? How many shootings in the last doggone, I haven't seen nobody shoot up everybody and they come out all right. They butterfly away on a plane, or they all kill everybody, and either the police kill them or they kill themselves. Everybody. Those are card-carrying CIA trainees. That's who they are. I don't care if the people believe it. Everybody knows that, yes.
Long gunman.
Huh?
Long gunman.
Long gunman. I'm so tired of long gunmen and Lee Harvey Oswald. If I see another Lee Harvey Oswald and his miraculous shooting, Lee Harvey Oswald reminds me of Annie Oakley. Y'all might not remember Annie Oakley. Annie Oakley was in Wild Bill Hickok's Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. Boy, Annie Oakley could shoot. That child could shoot behind her back. She was a good shot. Yeah, Winchester, and she used 22 sometime. This is over 100 years ago, 120 years ago. That's the kind of shoot that boy down there, what's his name, do? Mr.
Lee Harvey Oswald? Lee Harvey Oswald?
Lee Harvey Oswald. And then, he's so unfortunate that a mafia don that owe the government a favor,
Yahoo.
a Jewish Italian. The mafia had a lot of Jewish Italians they don't ever talk about. They talk about Marlansky and like all the other people, Jews, but they don't talk about who Al Capone and how many Jewish Italians. Anyway, so what's the name was a trick shot. They called one bullet a magic bullet. It hit the president, man. When I look at that video, I actually feel sorry for that man. Hey man, pow! Stuff flew out of his head, matter flying out of his head. Hey man, the velocity of that was a bigger weapon than that little old thing he had. Hey man, it knocked stuff out of his soul, and this one shot that hit him in the head. Where the bullet had to keep going over there somewhere, right? It had to keep going somewhere over there. But instead, it turned around, went through the car, and then went up and hit the governor. Then went down. I don't know what happened to the bullet.
The first shot is supposed to hit in his neck.
Right.
It went through his neck. And after that, it's supposed to hit, I think it hit John Connolly.
John Connolly.
It hit him, then he hit his wrist.
It hit his wrist.
One bullet.
Mm-hmm.
The second bullet is the one that blew his brains out. And that's coming from the side. You can see
Hey man, they did all kind of tests. It was 3 shots or something. Can you? You can't do it. It was a pump shotgun, automatic weapon. But they tested with their best people. Anyway, Psychological Islamic Institute for Counter Zionist American Psychological Warfare worked on the white man. I want everybody to be proud of their brother. Proud of their brother. Now I'm going to do a little bragging. In every fight with the white man for the last 45 years, let's go back 50, I have never buckled to white oppression, and I have never even blinked at it. Never. Never. At all. Okay, now, as a Muslim, during the last 20 years, especially the last 15, we have been on the offensive, especially from 2002 on. The other period, we're setting all of this up. So it took us all of these years, and this is a big pleasure. Like the period we're in now is a big pleasure. Because we have shown the people that you don't have to be oppressed. We've shown the people that if you stand up for the truth, you can survive. They don't believe it's possible. We done proved it. It's not possible or possibility thinking anymore. We have proved that you could stand in front of the United States government and tell them, I'm going to slap the PIS out of you, and do it in front of his face and start laughing. Huh?
Jack Johnson.
You got to remember, we gave them all the clues. I said, we're using the Jack Johnson and Muhammad Ali approach. We told them that long, long time ago. Okay? We've used it. We've used it because, see, heroes don't have to be perfect. You know, where they try to put a little something, Malcolm did a little this and that. So what? Who wants a perfect hero? Or a saintly hero? Heroes for us is niggas, and niggas are not saintly all the way. You know, the closest you're going to get to a saint is St. Clarence 2X. St. Clarence 2X, he was doing it so long that he has evolved close to sainthood. This is just the way it is. This is my opinion of observing. And I would say St. Clarence 2X would be the very closest to a Negro saint, if they had him. A Negro Muslim saint. You know, that touches on all the actions of what a saint do, and is super grateful. See, God says, if you're grateful and appreciative, I'll give you more. St. Clarence got so much that he don't even ask. He just won't ask Allah for nothing. And he know the hadith tell him. And I've heard him tell himself, you got to start asking for stuff. So the only thing, St. Clarence today, I saw another day, he asks for other people. He won't ask nothing. He just still is hard-headed. And I told him, I said, you know the hadith. The Prophet, peace be upon him, asks for himself first. If you practice in the Sunnah, you got to ask for yourself first. So now I catch him mumbling. I heard him mumbling another day. Oh Allah, would you help the niggas? Help the world become a better world. And finally, he might have mumbled something about, he didn't get it out. Help me, nothing. He just couldn't find nothing to want. You know why? I said, what's wrong with you? He said, man, Allah done gave me everything I ever wanted. I don't want nothing but to work for the cause of Allah. That's what the Negro told me. So, wow, that's it. He said, I ain't afraid of nothing. I don't need nothing. I don't want nothing. Now, what do you, he asked me, would you suggest what I pray for? And I told him the same thing. You're doing good. Pray for everybody else. Pray for niggas. You know, niggas need a lot of prayers, boy. You can't use up all your prayers. In fact, when he said what he'd do, he said, oh Allah, help me, help niggas. That was for himself. That's his prayer. Now he prays it. I heard him, I was walking by his window the other night, and I heard him say it out loud. Oh Allah, help me, help niggas. That's all he wants. Okay, now, but this is the main point though. See, this is serious business. I'm telling you. The Abdul Maliks, the Siraj Wahaji, the Zaid Shakers, see, they're going to have to not pay for their behavior, but they're going to have to explain their behavior. The last thing I want to say about Oakland. Oakland and D.C. will be, inshallah, the headquarters. Now, I heard St. Clarence, he praised this, he actually did. Oh Allah, help Oakland to live out its legacy. Big in civil rights, big in black nationalism, big in black liberation. Let it be the center of the revival and the headquarters of Islamic resistance in the United States of America. And it looks like that's where it's heading. That's the goal for Oakland. And D.C. will play a supporting role for that, inshallah. Inshallah. That's what Oakland was all about. So Oakland, and I'll close with this because I talk forever. And I got 10,000 things to say, will never say them, so I'm going to close with this. The reason we call Oakland Stalingrad to Oakland is because of our historical knowledge of the turning point of World War II. That was the Battle of Stalingrad. And Stalingrad comes from Operation Barbarossa. It was Adolf Hitler that broke the non-aggression pact with Joseph Stalin in 1939. 1941, Adolf Hitler attacked the Soviet Union. And it caught the Russians by surprise. And they ran into Russia over 500 miles or more, all the way to what was called Stalingrad. Now it's called Volgograd. It's a big industrial city on the Volga River. The German Panzer units, the Wehrmacht, they call it German, operated perfectly. the Luftwaffe, the Air Force, worked in perfect combination. Remember, this is the first combination of tanks, artillery, Air Corps, and all that being used in combination. Everything else was World War I tactics. This is the first time. When Hitler came into, they tried it out a little bit in the Spanish Civil War, 1936, but they didn't get it down pat. When Hitler attacked Poland in 1939, this is the first time they practiced blitzkrieg, lightning warfare, in combination with all of these. It worked perfectly. The Russians were caught up by surprise. In that war, the Russians lost over 20 million people. They packed up all their factories, put them on trains, and moved them back beyond, Russia's 8 time zones. Russia is over 600 million square miles. That's twice the size of the United States, including Alaska. Now, Alaska is 1/4 the size of the continental United States. That place is huge. But Russia is twice as big as all that put together. So they moved all their equipment. They used a scorched earth policy. They burned everything. They didn't leave anything for the Germans. But the Germans moved because they was moving down. They was going to go down to the oil fields in the Caucasus. They got stopped at Stalingrad. Stalingrad, the bombers bombed the city to rubble. Here come the German tanks and everything. That Panzer boy was bad. But guess what? The city was so well bombed that it's rubble all in the streets. So the tanks can't go. It takes time to move. When it slows down, the Russians can hit the tanks. The other thing, the tanks is for lightning warfare over the plains and the steppes. Guess what? If you up in a building, the tank can't shoot up there because tanks can't shoot up there at only a certain level. So they were useless. They wore them out. They wore them out. If any of you saw the movies Enemy at the Gate about the Russian snipers, that's a good movie. It's very accurate. Called Enemy at the Gate. If any of you want to see it, I might have one copy. Or look at it on the internet. It is a good movie about Stalingrad. In fact, you know who took charge of Stalingrad? Nikita Khrushchev, of all people, if anybody remember who that was.
Yeah. Soviet premier.
Yeah, Nikita Khrushchev. That boy took charge. They might have lost 1 trillion people, but that was, with all them millions of Russians, who needs, who loses 1 million people if they don't come? Anyway, Stalingrad stopped the German advance. And everything that had been an advantage before now became a deficit or a liability. Everything that was a liability for the Russians now became an asset. People bombed out city, right? Everywhere to hide, rubble. The city is destroyed. The Russians developed their snipers. Please watch that movie, Enemy at the Gate. You'll love it. It's very close to truth. They kept on fighting. Pretty soon, one of the greatest generals, if not the greatest general of World War II, and I learned this from the old, in 1962, from the old magazine. They locked me in the hole in the Preston School of Industry, and people came and they donated magazines. I read every time in Newsweek from 1940 to 1945, during the whole war period. Zhukov, General Zhukov, did a move. The German forces have to supply themselves. When winter comes, they surrounded the Germans, pincered them, and captured 91,000 people. And out of them, only 6,000 of them got back to Russia. But it wasn't the Battle of Midway, Guadalcanal, and none of it. It wasn't the Battle of Britain that changed the course of World War II. It was Stalingrad. The war, the United States, Stalingrad to Oakland. The same thing that happened to the Germans against the Russians happened to the Americans and the Zionists by us. They attacked us with superior forces, people, machinery, everything. But the only thing was we engineered them to attack us. And we drew all the attention on Oakland. They have information coming from everywhere. It clouds up, they have so much information it clouds up the works. We have only one brain. We filter everything through our own brain, and we use a process of delay. We can use delay so effectively because most things are repetitive. So if we saw it 20 or 30 years ago, it will probably be the same. So we're going to delay on that, and we're going to use what we know usually happens. What happened in Oakland? Oakland was a Stalingrad for us. We stopped the U.S. advance. It's strategic brilliance that we made them expose themselves, and they did. And they used all their overt and covert attacks against us, and it had no effect at all. That's what we have to teach them, because they think it had to have effect. Muhammad al-Assad was telling the people in Iran that this would run Imam Musa crazy, because he was really thinking, from his point of view, anybody that goes through that is going to wind up crazy. Absolutely not. God don't put you in a fight unless he train you for it. All of this is training. For 40 years ago, already trained for it, and updated training. So I'm not bragging, but we're standing for all the brothers that's been whooped and kicked in the butt and shot down in the street to this day. They haven't did it to us. And we've won all of our fights. We are not the victim. We kicked, I have to use the language as proper. We have kicked the United States and the Zionists square up in their ass. And ain't nothing they can do about it. Because that fight is over. And mark this. This is what, July 12th, something. 2016. By 2018 or 19, we will have our foot sideways up in their behind. We're telling them what we're going to do. If they discombobulated now, you look at them then. By then, we will have educated the people on what's possible. By then, people will have already crawled out of the woodwork. By then, the American people are going to be aware, which they already are. I'm speaking from trends now. This has already happened. White folks ain't going to trust you. Black people already, and Mexicans don't trust you. The U.S. system, we don't have to do nothing, is on a suicide mission. They're downhill runners. Allah is placing us in a position to do our part in the nicest and the most civilized and the most humane way to help Muslims realize their destiny. That's why we always relate Surah 41, ayats 33 to 35. that relates to the mission of the Muslims in America. What is the best speech? To call people to Allah, work righteous deeds and say, I am a Muslim. Repel evil with that which is better. That may be that between you and him that was enmity and hatred become as though you were warm and intimate friends. Our goal is to make the American people our warm and fuzzy friends. That's what we are to do. The United States just gonna get a butt kicking in the process. And they deserve it. They gonna get a royal butt kicking. Unless they get struck by lightning or something like Nineveh, which the chances of that, since there's only one group of people in the Quran that ever said, well, we've been messing up, we better straighten up. The U.S. does not have that possibility because it just don't have that ability, and it's not showing any signs of it. Again, the Quran says that only those who are the Sabiqun, who are patient, and Allah uses the word has, they will be the lucky or fortunate ones. Now, we do pray to be in that number. We want to be in that number. We want to be according to the lucky ones. The Americans used to do the Muslims used to do da'wah, and were happy to call people to Islam. The Americans scared them to death, and they're afraid to invite people to Islam. And so we want to be in that number. So this is our mission, and this is our goal here in America. Oakland is Stalingrad. We have for us, where everything that was an advantage to the Americans has become a disadvantage. Strategic brilliance is what we have been practicing. Our vision for Oakland and D.C., we have lived up to the movement, As-Sabiqun movement, not only with longevity, but how we treat and how we respect people. And we want to play a big part in the independent Islamic movement of North America. We also want to neutralize the influence of ISNA, ICNA, and the other mainstream organizations until they feel better about themselves and better about Islam. So, dear believers, we thank you very much for listening. We want to distribute this tape very soon in Oakland. We'll make a few for here. But the people that listen to this tape, the government has been playing with our website. So as soon as you see it, we want you to call or email all of your friends and ask them to look at this CD, DVD, because somebody has been playing with our website and they try to keep the numbers low. But I have more people talking to me about the website than they say have seen it. So that's just like stealing our mail. It came in from overseas, but I don't know how many untold thousands of dollars. They stole our mail, and they're trying to make us feel like nobody's listening. Well, that's a big lie, sisters and brothers. People are listening, and they appreciate what we're doing. We thank you all very much. Now, 4603 Benning Road, Southeast Washington, D.C. Send tons of money. We're trying to raise $15 million soon, and within the next few years, 10 years, we want to raise $150 million. You think that's a lot of money, but for the work that we want to do a minimum of $150 million worth of good. So we want you to send us tons of money, up in the thousands. But for now, don't send it to Masjid al-Islam because the government has taken and closed all of our accounts. And the other banks won't give us an account under Masjid al-Islam. So send all the checks blank, and I will write my slave name in it, and I will cash it that way if they let me keep that. It took me too much to get that. And if you want to be gangsterfied, send cash. It's okay. Sure, what the heck? Well, send it overnight where you got to sign for it. Yeah. And help the believers. The last thing, As-Sabiqun, Allah will know. We've lived up to that name, As-Sabiqun. We've anticipated what should be done. We went out and did what we should do before anybody was even aware of what should be done. That's what As-Sabiqun do. They go out first, they win in a race. We ask you to make dua for us, because this is the biggest mission in America, probably since American times. I know it sounds exaggeratory, but it's true. Because if we can help the Islamic movement in North America and the human potential movement here in America, we can help good people all over the world. That's our intention. Our intention is nothing but good. And I want you to realize that you could send all the money you want to a Negro, because this Negro ain't gonna run off with your money and buy no Cadillac or Benz. And don't think that we can't handle money. When they had burglarized 2 places, 50,000, we paid taxes, another 50 or 60, 70, 80,000, let's say 100,000. And they closed off 4 accounts where we couldn't get nothing out of them. The last few months, we made a comeback. I'm not going to mention the amount of thousands, but we have plenty of money for the fight. And the last couple of weeks, we've raised even more. What I want y'all to do is have faith and confidence in us. And we have handled literally millions and millions of dollars in our lifetime without any big deal about it. So you can't send us probably more money than we've already given away. So remove the Negro vision and money from your mind about us. Think of a multi-million-dollar financier who everybody knows helped finance the black movement overseas and some here. And is the leader and organizer of the only African-American cocaine cartel in history. That's right. And the money that we didn't keep for ourselves, we gave it all to the black movement. Oh, see, that's what people say. I know it'll probably be some kind of law that gets giving money to a revolution. So we didn't personally do it. That's what people say. They're always talking about it. They said that nigga sold dope in South America, took the money back to Africa, and never broke no single law, what they call in those days, Africa was the Holy Land for Negroes. Never broke any law in Africa, and technically didn't break any laws in South America, because all the big dope connections was CIA connections anyway. So wherever you deal with dope in the world, you dealing it for the CIA. Thank you very much. As-salamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.